And we're off. Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of the All Dolphins podcast, number 449. Joined for this one by Dave Hyde of the South Florida Sun Sentinel, author of a few books, including, as you see behind him, Still Perfect, The Untold Story of the 1972 Miami Dolphins, a copy of which I own.
Alan was the great editor of that book, actually. Helped it out immensely. It's our first time we worked together.
I was going to do a cheap plug for myself, but you beat me to it. Oh, stop, Dave. Really, stop. I kid. We're not here to talk about the book, although you absolutely should check it out. Dave, it's still available on Amazon or those places.
It is on Amazon. And if you want to read about Dolphins winning, there you go. That's where you go.
Oh, you had to go there, didn't you?
Oh, I know. There's going to be a lot of cheap shots right now.
I know. Before we start, please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Check out Dave's written content at sunsentinel.com. Mine and that of my staff at MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. And here we go. And where to start? I guess we'll start with this one. We'll look ahead and we'll look back a little bit and assess where the realistic chance of winning at Buffalo on Thursday night.
You know, the realistic chance is simply this: nobody's picking them to win, and for very good reason, nobody's picking them to win. And so, does Buffalo? They're not the kind of team that has shown that they overlook opponents. Certainly, they haven't overlooked the Dolphins. But there you go. That's the. They get a lot of answers. They get a lot of answers on defense because here comes the number one offense in the league at them. And they figure out, they just get organized on offense. That was embarrassing sense. So not an easy place to play for anybody, but for the Dolphins, haven't won there since 2016 when Adam Gase was the coach, and that was the year they went to the playoffs. But they've had some ugly games up there, and they've had some competitive games up there. I mean, just because everybody's picking the Bills, including me, doesn't mean they win, but you'd be foolish not to pick the Bills right now.
No, correct. I take some encouragement from the fact the Dolphins easily could have won the game there last year, if not for that ill-timed roughness penalty on Jordan Poyer, who's now back with the Bills and who our buddy Sal Capaccio in Buffalo told us basically he was signed to be a mentor, not to play. So Dolphin fans hoping he's going to be on the field and the Dolphins can exploit him in the passing game. I'm afraid to say that's not going to happen. Because if you stop to analyze this game unit by unit, position by position and all that, there's nothing that we've seen in the first 2 weeks of the regular season to suggest that it's going to be even remotely close. But desperation sometimes can play a part in it because the Dolphins are up against it. Right, I'm losing my voice like I'm going through puberty again. Are you a believer in the desperation factor and what it can do for a team and how it could propel the Dolphins to an upset?
Here's my belief in the desperation factor in the NFL. If two teams are relatively evenly matched, and you're deciding whichever team's more desperate, I'm going to go with that one. When the talent, there's such a disparate, margin. There's such a wide margin between talents. I don't go. The desperation can work against you too. Pressing, lack of confidence. Not trusting teammates or coaches. So we'll see which way it goes for the Dolphins. They played better. The encouraging part is they couldn't. Mike McDaniel was right. They couldn't really play worse than the opener, and they did play better. Mm-hmm. But then again, New England was a team looking to get beaten too. So now they go to the champs now, the AFC East champs, not the. They haven't been able to get over the hump, but they got the one guy. I think Cincinnati and Buffalo, you take the one guy off that team and everything changes for them. And we'll see with Cincinnati now.
Yeah, we're about to find out, right? And that affects the Dolphins, as I wrote on the website on MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com earlier Tuesday. That is going to impact the Week 16 game because the word is at least 3 months for Joe Burrow's injury on his toe, and very possibly out for the year. If he's out for the year, just an early alert. It's a game that could be flexed if the Dolphins are out of contention and if the Bengals kind of fall by the wayside. I think I saw a stat where the Bengals were, I think, it's just slightly above 500 when Jake Browning had
Mm-hmm.
extensive playing time a couple of years ago when Burrow had the wrist injury. And but you're right, though, Josh Allen. I think more so than even Cincinnati. Josh Allen's a team that there's a guy who really makes that team go. Um, you're not anticipating, or are you, major organizational changes for the Dolphins if they lose? More specifically, if they lose and look really badly in the process, look really bad in the process.
I mean, if they lose bad, we're talking question of when at that point, and
Oh,
not,
no, correct. But
I mean, is it Friday? Is it mid-October? Is it mid-November? And then we get into what Steve Ross wants to do. You got to look at some issues too, from who you pick as interim coach to um, you want these young players, and I'm not saying it's a young team, but there are some young components to it to develop, and you don't want them to get caught up in constant change to the point they lose the season. So you got to look at there's a lot of things beyond just who's going to be in charge or who's but let's be honest, if they go 0-3 and they look bad doing it, um, it's just a question of probably when, and not if at that point.
yeah, and I always wonder about the timing. And again, for me, from where I sit, it would have to be like a borderline embarrassing performance. Like if they play against Buffalo and get moved around the way they did it against the Colts in Week 1, I think all bets are off and some things could happen. And this is where I bring up and I write on the site quite often precedent for certain situations that occur because the past very often is a predictor of the future. And get this, as a coincidence, just 10 years ago, the Dolphins ended the season with a coach whose status was kind of in question. Then Stephen Ross tells us in the locker room after a win against Minnesota, the next to last week of the regular season, guys, Christmas present, there will be no coaching change. Joe Philbin's coming back. Boom, gets fired 4 games into the next season. That was in 2015. Joe Philbin got fired. 2015 also was the last time the Dolphins had both of their coordinators come back from the previous year, which is the case this year with Anthony Weaver and Frank Smith. Again, I'm not saying it's because they have the same coordinators back that the season has gone off the rails. I'm just pointing it out. You do with those facts what you wish.
Well, if we're looking at parallel tracks here,
Go
that
ahead.
was a game in London against the Jets,
Mm-hmm.
in which I remember the Jets ran the corner blitz about 82 times that game, and the Dolphins never adjusted. But next week they play the Jets, so in week 4. So if you're looking at parallel tracks, Alan,
See,
I have no idea. Who knows
no, I don't either.
what Steve Ross is thinking, other than he doesn't have answers. But the easy way, again, for the Dolphins to change something is play well, go out and play well.
Well, and beyond playing well, because there were times when they did play well. I mean, like
No,
for
no, look like a pro team, look like an NFL team,
well, it
like
looked like we were back to 2022, 2023 when they were moving the ball. They
for
had
a
like
while,
back-to-back
yeah,
drives. Yeah,
for a
and then
while.
but at the end, this disorganization. How the hell does that happen? At the NFL level, back-to-back series when you need a score to have a delay game and a false start to put yourself in 2nd and 20, and not only at the NFL level in your 4th year with your head coach and assistant. I mean, what?
And it seems like this has been a repetitive, not to this degree, but it's not just the week before they had to call timeout before the 2-point conversion because the right players
Yep.
weren't on there, and so and you go back to his complaint at this, a couple years ago, plays not getting in on time. So this is it's but for it to happen, as you said, year four. What are they practicing? I mean, this is just fundamental. If this happens in a high school game, you go, oh, they better work on some things. But
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen this at an NFL level where the same thing happens essentially. Two delay of game penalties, two other pre-snap penalties. Um, Before on the last two series when you can win a game and final 3 minutes and 18 seconds. You have that time, then you have three sacks. Two is running out of bounds and can't make a play or can't cut up field because I get it, they don't want him to run. And then he just threw some bad passes. One on the first series over the middle to Tyreek Hill he was wide open and just missed him. Looked like the previous game, the early against the Colts, where he sailed the ball and was
Yep.
intercepted to Tyreek Hill. And then the interception, he just didn't see the Patriots linebacker.
And I will say in his defense, and in his offense, if that makes any sense. In his defense, it was fourth down, so it's better that he chuck it and try to do something as opposed to eat the ball at that point. In his offense, that doesn't make any sense, but I'll say it anyway. If you look at the overhead shot, he has Julian Hill leaking out as he's moving up in the pocket, and it's an easy pitch and catch. And even though Julian Hill was not at the sticks when he would have caught the ball, he had a clear path to the first down. That was the throw to make instead of trying to force it over the middle. But that's neither here nor there. It was just to me the final drive was even more egregious because after that play to Achane where he almost scored, and this is how things are going for the Dolphins right now. If you have good juju for you, Devon Achane is 3 inches inside the out of line. The out of bounds line. If you have bad juju, he steps over the line. And that's and then they have first.
I will say, Alan, when it looked like he scored, I looked at the scoreboard. There was 1:05 left.
Yeah,
and I thought too much time.
Yeah,
too much. I thought it was almost a good thing that he stepped out of bounds. I thought they're going to score. The Patriots are exhausted at this point of the day. Let's remember, home 1 o'clock. The Patriots are losing players. There's a couple players who cramped up. One guy's been, I can't remember who. Had been announced he's out of the game. I'm listening to Tim Beaucamper on the radio, who's saying their defense looks exhausted. So you got them right where you want them, and you have this long break when Achane steps out of bounds, referees huddle, bring the ball back, and still you take a delay of game penalty there because Tua he has 12 men in the huddle. He's got to wait till one gets out. I mean, this is year four between Mike McDaniel's lack of organization right there, and he's in the $50 million club. I'm sorry, you're held to a higher standard when you're in the $50 million club, not making the plays that were available to him. I mean, that was Mike said it right that they robbed themselves of the chance to win that game.
Yeah, it was 1st and 10 with one from the 26 with 109 left, and I'm glad you brought up that point. And it's like, because of course everything we say gets twisted. Nobody ever said the loss was entirely on Tua. He's the one who gets paid. The market is the market. Well, the market is the market for a reason, and quarterbacks get paid the big money for a reason, is to make plays at times when not everybody else on your team is performing. There's more of an onus on him, which is why he's getting paid the big bucks. So don't misconstrue that. Nobody is saying it was all on him, because that annoys me when fans kind of.
It's on everybody. It is on everybody, but he's the one who had the chance to bail everybody out. And as you said, that's the job of the quarterback in some games, and it was available that game. But I mean, you go right down the list from this defense is. I went and I understood they have awful secondary going into the season, but to be scored on 13 of 15 possessions, assuming without kneel downs, that's like staggering.
But but it's not just the secondary. I mean, I don't think anybody up front's been very good. And I want to go back to one last point I want to make about Tua and all that. And I know some of his defenders, including some in the media, will not stop throwing out stats and numbers and passing numbers and all that. Josh Allen had a 73.4 passer rating on Sunday for the Bills against the Jets. They won 30-10. Tua had a 115.5 passer rating, passed for 315 yards. Again, situational football matters a ton. Josh Allen, again, didn't need to do anything, didn't do anything against Baltimore in week 1. They needed him to be, God, that's a cliche expression that I hate, but right now I'm old and I'm forgetting. I can't think of anything better. He had to be Superman in the fourth quarter, and it was like, okay, I'll be Superman. And the dude balled out like nobody's business. That's more important than just the pure passer rating, yards, and all that. Completion percentage. Situationally, you got to come up big when it happens again, with the understanding this was not all on Tua. I want to just be very, very clear about that.
You made it very clear. It's like we bend over backwards to say it's not all on Tua. But again, I mean, you put him in that $50 million, and I come back to that because that has ramifications across the roster. Not only a full belief in him, but or not a full organizational belief, coaching belief. Mike went in and pounded it, but he's got to win those games. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes.
No, I don't disagree. And again, I talk about it, bad juju, and I felt that heading into the regular season, I did have the Dolphins to win against the Patriots, although I wasn't, and I said this, I had them like 23-20. I wasn't crazy about the game, my feeling. I had them losing to the Colts, and part of it was the bad juju in the offseason. And and I'm contradicting myself here, and you can hold me to the fire on this. Fans in the comments, by all means, call me out. Because I'm not necessarily, I say I'm not a big believer in intangibles. I am a believer in having good juju heading into a season. And in 2024, to me, it was like the Dolphins were messing up by just throwing out contracts all over the place, despite not having won a playoff game. And then this year, they kind of went the opposite route. And then you have the whole deal with Jonnu Smith. You have the whole deal with Jalen Ramsey. And it's just bad juju, bad vibes around the team heading into the regular season. And on top of that, you had a lot of injuries in training camp, which didn't cost you guys at the start of the regular season. It cost you a lot of practice time together.
Yeah, to me, yeah, we talked the Ramsey trade. They lost 2 players. They got 1 back, and they spent $7 million. But the larger point is they didn't replace either of those guys. They didn't replace Ramsey. They don't even attempt to get a number 1. You're not going to get a number 1 cornerback. I get that, but you have to get a serviceable guy you can count on. They're playing so much zone right now, and you can't do that across a full Sunday to try to protect your secondary, and that's what they're doing. So there's that, and then the tight end is just one of the more mystifying. It goes on and on and on with it. Hey, we signed Darren Waller. He didn't play for a year. Then he didn't play in training camp, but he's named the starter. They've never seen him play for any period of time since he retired, since I get Frank Smith was with him back with the Raiders and when he was great. But, this thing just goes on, and he's not only not playing, they really don't have a average NFL tight end out there that to help. And now you could say Mike doesn't really need one. He doesn't want one in his offense. They didn't really value Jonnu Smith.
Well, they did last year because they checked.
But Tua sure valued him when they took away his wideouts. So again, to me, the trade was mystifying, and that they lost 2 players and a lot of money for 1 player who hadn't had a couple good years. But it was more mystifying that they didn't even try to replace those guys.
Yeah, and that, to me, I would have more of an issue with Jalen Ramsey. Because again, you were probably not going to get somebody of that caliber, obviously, because Jalen Ramsey, whatever we think of him as a teammate, as a dude, and all that, the dude can play cornerback, I should say. Still, even though he gave up a long pass to Jackson Smith-Jigba in the Seattle game, that came after he had a pick, and on that play, still the coverage wasn't bad. With Jonnu Smith, and I wrote about this on the website today, his numbers after 2 games, he's got 9 catches for 42 yards. He's not averaging even 5 yards a catch. So what happened last year is not so much, and I want to be careful how I say this. Johnny Smith served the purpose of giving Turan a short outlet when there was
Sure,
no.
absolutely.
Well, it's not, and this is where the Dolphins decided how much is that worth.
Right.
If
I don't disagree with him on that. I don't disagree. Is it worth $12 million?
no,
Probably. If you decide no, I'm not going to argue. But you got to have some replacement.
oh, I agree.
You got to have somebody step in and be serviceable for you. And their answer was Darren Waller. And from the start, and look, it was a very heartwarming story. We know his story of overcoming demons and everything. And if it worked out great, it would have been a bonus, I thought. But they put all their chips on that. It was very bizarre. So you got strange decisions on the field, the first two games, and continued strange decisions from the front office.
It's like they don't learn their lesson, though. I mean, it happens. Same thing with OBJ, where okay, it's almost like they're playing. This guy's going to be our number
Yeah.
three, and then Shaq Barrett, um, and mind you, that one is. I mean, it's kind of tougher if he's telling him in March, and no, I'm planning to play, and then in July he drops a bomb like 2 weeks before the start of camp. No, I'm going to retire. But then in this one they reacted, and then they went out and signed Emmanuel Ogba immediately to fill that gap with OBJ. By the time that experiment was done. We're in November, and Dolphins still don't have a number 3 receiver. And then it happened before too that we're going back. I mean, Arian Foster,
Mario Williams,
Mario Williams, Julius
I mean,
Thomas. It's like, I mean, the list goes on and on. Is there any, trying to give the folks here some positive thoughts, vibes about this team?
Well, look, here's the positive. You touched on it. You saw they got back to their offense of 2023. I mean, they averaged 6.9 yards a play. They led the league in number one offense, and they averaged 6.5 yards a play a couple years ago. They averaged 5.1 yards a play last year. So, the offense until those last two drives when it was just inexplicable. It was getting back to moving the ball. Now it was getting back to moving the ball without a running game. And you look at the line, and the guards got blown up, I thought, in this game, and the interior of the line, and I get they're playing with a couple reserves. New England was playing out its star cornerback that I think their whole defense revolves around. So everybody's missing something important. But if you're looking for the positive and the thing they got at, I'm sure they're going to go 100% on, because this is what they got. They're going back to trying to get that passing game going. The problem is Buffalo's seen it many times by now, and I'm sure they're comfortable here's how we're going to stop it.
Yeah, and here's the other thing I would say also, and I'm sure this is going to get slapped back by some fans who are going to be calling me delusional and full of hopium and whatever. Even if the Dolphins lose against the Bills, and to me, the baseline for that game, be competitive. Okay. Then the next game is the Jets on Monday night, and I'm sorry, the Jets just got waxed by the Bills. They're 0-2. I think they'll be a good team in time, because I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a good coach. But this is not a game the Dolphins can't win. The following week is at Carolina. Oh, by the way, there you saw the report that it's going to be without Robert Hunt, who tore biceps and probably is out for the year. Disappointing there. You're not going to tell me that they can't win at Carolina. All of a sudden, they're 2-3, facing a Week 6 game against the Chargers at home, which is not going to be easy because the Chargers look pretty good. But this is where I would say, because I kind of sense some fans are like, season's over if they're 0-3. And maybe it is, but you still have to play the 17 games. And again, the schedule has a little bit of a lull after that. That's the best I can do.
That's selling it right there, my friend. That's a good job. I agree. They can come back to be 3-3. It's the Chargers game. You want to sell it a little more. 1:00 game again. Chargers won't be ready for that heat. And the problem is when I looked at this season, I thought they need to get off to a good start in the first half, because that's where they're going to make their hay, because things get tightened up. Now, they win a couple games, they get a little confidence. They that would be the idea. Um, but we're grasping right now. If you're Dolphins, you're grasping for any ray of hope. And
Oh,
but the bottom line, they need to go out and play a representative, good game against Buffalo. They can't get blown off the field.
correct. And here's the other thing too. I just thought of that as you were talking. They were 2-6. No, they were 2-5 when they went to Buffalo last year, which was kind of a lost cause season and all that. They didn't win at Buffalo, but they played a competitive game. And if you recall, at that time, I think when they made the decision, no, we're not trading Calais Campbell because we think we can make a run. And lo and behold, they made a run, starting with a win at the Rams on Monday night, a Rams team that wound up making the playoffs for their best win of the season. So, again, guys, I'm not saying the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs if they lose against Buffalo. I'm just saying I don't know that it serves any purpose to just say, okay, season's over if they're 0-3 and all that. Last thing for you, when's the last time we've been in this spot? And to me, 2019 doesn't count because Dolphins were rebuilding and we knew what they were doing. But at a spot pretty early in the season where it feels like it might not be long before everything gets blown up. Can you
Well, there was, I guess, 2018 with Jay Cutler and Adam Gase, and Ryan Tannehill was hurt, remember, and that was the question. It's very cyclical. Every few years it happens around here, right? I mean, I remember sitting in a pub out in London and getting a phone call from someone in the Dolphins that they're letting go of Sylvan, and I broke the story that I emailed Steve Ross, and he said, how does this get out? So yeah, it seems like every few years it's going on, and it just has the feel of that, and the Dolphins' challenge on the inside is to change that feel, and there's only one way to do it, first of all, they got to clean up their act. I mean, they got to look like a pro team.
Yep.
And before you can even get into, beating good teams and all that, the first two games, they haven't even looked like an NFL team in key places, key parts of the game. And that gets to organization, professionalism. Again, what are they doing in practice? If they're not practicing substitution and 2 minutes, and that's I've seen the Friday walkthroughs with other coaches. That's where that stuff's done, and everybody watches. The coaches make sure, okay, calling in, here's the play. You're in, you're out. So something's fundamentally wrong, and they got to fix this week.
Yeah, and that's worse than a false start where, I mean, you can't coach. I mean, obviously the guys are taught you don't move, and if all of a sudden somebody gets spastic and starts moving at the line, I mean, you've coached it. It's not like that's not been coached, but getting the operation of getting the play in on time, yeah, that's obviously an entire different ball game. So that's going to wrap it up, and we'll have if it goes south and really bad on Thursday night, I'm sure we'll have plenty of discussions, maybe looking more ahead. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully the Dolphins are competitive, at least. At best they pull off the major upset, but we shall see. He is Dave Hyde from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Check out his fine work at sunsentinel.com. You see the social media handle at Dave Hyde Sports. Check out my fine work at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.